Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
This is Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
Hello, Kentuckiana. I'm your special host, Dr. Lance Pearson of the Kentucky Liberty Caucus, here on Kentucky's Voice. That's 9:70 a.m. right now. We're also streaming this on Facebook and YouTube if you want to find Kentucky's Voice for those streaming. This will also be rebroadcast at about 4 p.m. on Channel 21, which is WBNA if you have Spectrum. So we would love to have you join us for that. As most of you know, Kentucky's Voice is about local and state politics in Louisville, from Pleasure Ridge Park all the way out to Pleasureville, and in Kentucky from Corbin all the way up to Covington, and from Pikeville all the way to Paducah and the Purchase. So today we have a very interesting show. We're going to be focused today on the Appalachian Mountains and Eastern Kentucky, an area that is neglected in our conversations here in the big city of Louisville for far too much. Basically, we want to focus on one of the most economically distressed regions of the United States. They've been stricken recently with some natural disasters and flooding that they're continuing to recover from. But even before that and continuing through that, they were stricken by a lack of economic and educational opportunity and a scourge of chronic health issues and drug addiction. So we're going to talk through a lot of those issues. We're going to be joined by State Representative Bill Wesley, who's kind of in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains and who is going to be running for a Senate district that covers a lot of the areas that have been hit hardest by the economic distress that we're going to be talking about. We're not going to only focus on issues, though. We want to talk through some possible solutions and maybe some legislative ideas for how we can help put our focus as a state on improving some of the people that are in the greatest need, and basically stop wasting the human resources of this region of the state. The thing that I want to do on this intro is I actually want to just have a second to talk about all of the counties that are affected by this economic distress that Eastern Kentucky and the Appalachian Mountains are going through. The reason I wanted to do this is I think it's a fair bet that most of these 36 counties that are considered by the Appalachian Regional Commission as being in economically distressed conditions are never talked about whatsoever. It wouldn't shock me if there hasn't been a mention of most of these counties in Louisville or Lexington media over the last decade. So I want to at least name the counties that we're really focused on and trying to help improve the lives of the people there. Bath County, Bell County, who one of my guests is actually from, Breathitt, Carter, Casey, Clay, Clinton, Elliott, Estill, Floyd, Harlan, Jackson, Johnson, Knott, Knox, Lawrence, Lee, Leslie. I'm only halfway through. Remember, these are counties that are considered nationally as being in economically distressed conditions. All right, the rest of the list. Letcher County, Lewis, McCreary, Magoffin, Martin, Menifee, Metcalf, Morgan, Owsley, Perry, Pike, Powell, Rockcastle, Rowan, Russell, Wayne, Whitley, and Wolf. So you heard that long list of counties. This might be the only mention that those counties have had on local media in the last decade. And if you're not talking about it, then a lot of the state legislature isn't talking about it. That's something that we're going to address when we bring Bill Wesley on. Our format today is going to be the first segment, talking with Bill Wesley. The next two segments, I'm going to bring on my good friend, John Ross Marcus Cox, to discuss with Bill and I some of the issues about economic development in the region. And the last segment, we're going to talk about some crazy scandals and crime that has recently hit the news coming out of some of Appalachia. Come back after the break. We love having you on.
Online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back. I'm your guest. I'm your special host, Dr. Lance Pearson with the Kentucky Liberty Caucus. I'm here on Kentucky's Voice, 970 AM. We also rebroadcast at 4 p.m. and maybe 10 or 11. You'd have to check on Channel 21 on Spectrum. We also have a live podcast stream that's on both Facebook and on YouTube if you just search for Kentucky's Voice. For this segment, we're honored to bring on one of our long-serving state legislators, Bill Wesley. Bill Wesley is a former Marine. Okay, we just popped up a visual for the people that are streaming this online. You'll be able to see that, but you can tell by his crew cut that he is a former Marine. It looks like he was actually pulled off of a Marine recruitment poster. Bill Wesley has served in the state legislature as a House representative for the past 5 years, going on 6 years. And the thing that he's gained the most notoriety statewide for are his stances on social conservative issues. Bill, you pushed hard for a bathroom bill to keep men and boys out of girls' restrooms. Then he actually wound up confronting a transgender man, about 250 pounds, 6'4", dressed in a white sequined wedding dress, coming out of a women's restroom that had women and children inside it at the state capitol. Just wild stuff. So, Bill, what else would you like the people of Kentucky to know about your background?
So I've been a chaplain for about maybe 12 years, 13 years. I pastored for 24. I chaplain on several departments in 5 counties. I love our veterans, but our foster kids. I try to stand for, family values, Christian values.
Right.
And I think that's very important where I'm from, being not just a conservative, but just a Christian.
Right.
And we was raised up with these morals and values, and I want to fight for that.
Right. And so I know a lot of your platform, you're pro-God, pro-gun, pro-life, pro-self-defense, being a former Marine.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
One thing I want to focus on, just right off the bat, since this overall show is focused on Appalachia, can you just talk a little bit as a very religious man? You said you were a pastor for 24 years. You're currently a chaplain. Can you just talk a little bit about the role and the essential role that the church plays in Appalachian life? And how central is it to the community there in Appalachia?
Oh, absolutely. Counting the food banks.
Yeah.
programs that they offer through the church for the drug abuse that we see here.
Yep.
If you pulled the church out, man, this it would be crucial over here.
Right.
It would just be devastating. They play a huge role over here of reaching out, just showing compassion.
Right.
Whenever there's a devastation, like, say the floods.
Yeah.
When we got hit in eastern Kentucky, it was the church that showed up first.
That's right.
And, I got a lot of respect for the Salvation Army, because when they showed up, I never understood the ringing of the bell at, like, say, Walmart's, throwing in the change. But, man, they fed literally hundreds of people a day.
Right.
And knowing a little bit about their background is the salvation, the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Right.
And so I'm very thankful that, programs like that and the churches that stepped up and came out, because, to be honest, there was a lot of money that was poured into, programs that the government offered, but these people never seen one dime of it.
Right.
I had people sleeping, Dr. Pearson, on the railroad tracks in Breathitt County.
Right. That's crazy.
They had their families in tents, and to neglect that, I don't see why, the neglect has been so huge over here. I just don't. I don't get it.
Right. And so, and we'll get into this more in the next segments when we talk about economic development. But how have you seen? How have you seen the church basically changing over the last 2 decades as the coal jobs have left, as opioids have moved in, all of the struggles that are going on in Appalachia? Like, how have you seen the role of the church change? Are you seeing attendance grow, or are people becoming disillusioned and they're turning to drugs, and that's taking the place of church? Just basically, how has the role of the church changed over the last 2 decades where Appalachia has really struggled?
Yeah, I see that there's people that's tired. Yeah. Because there's so many issues, and it just seems like we've been forgotten about so much over here.
That's right.
Some churches have grown.
Yeah.
They have grown. And then some has wilted away because of, just people want to go other places. And, you see the neglect in a lot of places that a lot of people don't want to get on board anymore. Listen, I this is what you'll hear. I've helped them and I've done this, and it just seems like there's no fruit that comes out of it.
Right.
But, you got some that keeps pushing, and they're not going to give up. I got some good friends up there in ministry.
Yeah.
They have never stopped, and I don't believe that they'll ever stop. And I'm glad for that, because, we got a work to do. Yeah. And Jesus said, "Who shall endure to the end, the same shall be saved." We got to have endurance. We got to have that,
right.
To be, having a heart that we're not going to give up.
Right. Okay, let's transition a little bit. You are planning on running for a different office this next cycle. It was a surprise to many people, but you've been a House rep for the last 5 years, going on 6. This next cycle, you're planning on running for Senate to cover a bigger area. So tell us a little bit about that Senate district. It extends both from your current counties, which include Powell and Estill County, but all the way, continuing on eastward and then down, including Perry and Magoffin and Leslie and Wolfe counties, right? So what are some of the legislative priorities that you are going to pursue if you are elected, and what are you running on? How are you going to try to help improve that region?
Yeah, so real quick, I would have never decided to run in anything unless the Lord dealt with me.
Right.
And that's how I began to run in as a state representative. Got a little experience under my belt, especially with you and John Cox being up there, running some good bills. So now, as I've increased in a little bit. The Lord dealt with me to run for Senate, and nothing against anybody on that end. I just see the neglect so much in my area. Right. I believe I could do a better job. I'm running 9 counties. Now, before we was redistrict as a state representative, I've already had these people before, a lot of them.
Yeah.
And so I know what their needs are.
Yeah.
And just for example, like their water infrastructure.
That's right.
No jobs are going to come here, none,
Yep.
unless their water problems are fixed. It's an embarrassment and it's a shame that, say, Martin County is number 1 in the nation for a neglect of water. And so I think that we should address them issues and fix them problems.
Right.
And, there's counties that seem like they get more than us.
Yeah.
And I think that it should be divided equally because we are the Commonwealth.
That's right.
We shouldn't have division in our state. But if you look at the right side of I-75, you can see obviously that there is a big division and neglect. And so I want to be able to reach out and work with my local officials and my churches. Right. And I've preached as not just as a pastor, but evangelist up in the mountain area for many years. Right. And so I've learned their areas in a good way.
Right. Okay. So I mean, and there's no disputing, when you're one of 38 senators, you have a lot more influence and you get to deal with more counties and more issues than you do as one of 100 in the House. So that's easy to understand. Can you talk a little bit, and you alluded to this already, but how do you feel that Eastern Kentucky is dealt with in the legislature? Does the legislature give enough attention to those areas of our state rather than, say, the Golden Triangle or along the interstates?
Yes, sir. I feel like we have been left out in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I believe that this next session coming into the budget is going to be different.
I hope so.
I believe our leadership has had more of attention in Eastern Kentucky. There has been more stuff delivered as leadership abilities and chair positions, vice chair positions given to the Eastern Mountain people that have a stronger voice.
Right.
And so I believe it's going to be different this session.
Okay. All right. Right after this break, we're going to pick up my good friend John Ross Marcus Cox to talk about economic development along with Bill Wesley. Stay tuned and come on back.
Ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back. I'm Dr. Lance Pearson, your special host on Kentucky's Voice. We're on 970 a.m. until noon. We will rebroadcast on Channel 21. That's on Spectrum. If you have Spectrum, that's WBNA at 4 p.m. and maybe 10 or 11. You just got to check. And then we're also live streaming this on YouTube and Facebook. You can find these videos later on the Kentucky's Voice YouTube channel. All right. Today we're talking about issues that are facing Appalachia, Eastern Kentucky, which is often neglected in our conversations. I'm honored to bring on a special guest that we've actually had on the program before. He's my very good friend, John Ross Marcus Cox. It's a mouthful there. He's got 3 first names. I don't know how that happened. You can find him on X at way too much JRMC. Those are his initials. So way too much JRMC, and the 2 is a number, not spelling out TWO. So way too much JRMC. So John Cox grew up in Bell County, which is in far southwestern Kentucky, all the way up through college. I'll let him talk a little bit. Let him talk a little bit about his background and his connection to Appalachia and why he knows these issues that are facing it so well. So, John, welcome on.
I appreciate having me back on, Lance. So, yeah, I mean, as far as products of the last 25 years of Appalachian culture, I feel like I'm pretty much the poster boy for it. You know, grew up 80s and 90s. My dad, my biological father died of a drug overdose. Wasn't really around for my mother. For my mother, I was raised by my grandparents and my mom. He worked in the coal mines. Didn't have a high school diploma. My mom remarried. Lord, you know, by the goodness of God, remarried what my stepdad's name. He's another coal miner. He's just a great guy that was definitely sent to us by God. It saved my life. But there's another works in the coal mines. But our family has been just ripped apart by opioid addiction over the years. My mom's a school teacher. My dad's a coal miner. So it's like, I feel like I'm everything you think of Appalachia, that is me. You know, real quick, I wanted to kind of just to give a shout out to Bill Wesley. Bill is, last time I was on, if you all remember, I kind of talked about how I got involved with COVID and all that, writing bills as far as me and you went for that. Yeah. Bill was one of the first legislators that just kind of welcomed me in, and I think he felt like an outsider just as much as I did at the time. So we were kind of kindred spirits there. But when I think of Bill Wesley, he talks about being called by the Lord to do what he does. And there's a verse, Isaiah 6:8 says, "And I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send, and who will go for us? And I said, here am I, send me." And Bill Wesley, brother, I feel like you were sent there. I feel like you are somebody who I know is going to run through a brick wall for his people. You fought, like I've seen you fight. I fought hand in hand with you for a lot of the things that are important to Appalachian culture. But I think a lot of things that are important there, I won't say run contradictory to what you think of as like big city Republican issues, but they are almost that they are that in a way. You know, it is a very culturally conservative area. But we've got to think outside the box and can't just think about, you know, what we think of as rhino legislation to bring the area back. So, Bill, appreciate you being on with me today, man, and I look forward to talking with you.
All right, let me break up that love fest a second. We're going to bring Bill back in. So Eastern Kentucky's lagged behind the rest of the state economically, really for all of our lifetimes, but even going back farther than that, as far back as we can look. So why don't you talk a little bit, Bill, about what your ideas of what the lack of economic opportunity that we see, what has caused that in Appalachia, so that, I mean, if we want to fix something, we got to first identify what the problems are and what the issues are. So what are the biggest issues hindering economic development in Eastern Kentucky, in your opinion, Bill?
I think it's the coal industry. And I will say this, if it's all right, Mr. Pearson.
Yes, sir.
Riverview Coal, Western Kentucky, their coal comes out of the mines. You'll never see a big pile outside where they're at, but the coal goes 4.5 miles on a conveyor belt out to a barge.
Yeah, that
barge will go to Louisville, and our own enemies will come in and buy up our coal. And it saddens me that we can sell our coal to other countries, but we can't use it here in the United States.
Yeah.
But I'm very thankful that I'm hearing good news that the coal industry could be coming up a little bit because of President Trump.
That's right.
And so I'm looking forward to that hitting Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, there was a huge decline in the amount of coal-related jobs that happened about 20 years ago. Most of that was due to federal regulations that are still kind of hampering, environmental regulations related to coal. And so, John, can you talk a little bit about like what you think the effects of the loss of all those jobs did to Appalachia?
Yes, I know we have a large listener base up here around the Louisville area, and I want everybody to kind of think about the culture that you see around like the Ford plant.
Ford truck plant.
The Ford truck plant. I mean, the coal industry was very similar to that. The people that work in these coal mines, my stepdad included, I want to make sure and give him a shout out because he's in Harlan County right now running that grader and loving everything about it. But it's very similar to that. It's their identity. Yeah. I mean, I live up here now, but I still consider myself a coal miner son, and so when you lost that, you lost a lot about, just the expertise. You had an area where people maybe weren't making the wages they deserved, and we can talk about that a little bit on why I think that's still the case. But the fact that they loved what they do, they knew what they were doing, and they knew that a very few number of people in the world knew how to do it.
Right. And
so when you lose that, you lose a lot of your identity. And again, I've told you this before, Lance, coal isn't the only answer to the area, but I think when you take away a place's primary economic development engine and the thing that people consider part of their identity, you're obviously going to have ancillary effects, and then you're going to see the crimes of despair and the drug addiction and all that is just going to come along with it. Yeah. So I think that's the best way I know to explain it is just kind of looking at looking at the culture around the Ford plant up here. It's very similar.
And just for perspective, ultimately the Ford truck plant employs almost 9,000 people, it's crazy that there's that many jobs that come out, and that's not even counting all the ancillary jobs. Mm-hmm. And so coal, when it was booming, we were talking in the tens of thousands of jobs. We're down to probably less than 5,000 coal jobs in Eastern Kentucky right now. And so when you lose all those jobs, you basically are taking away a community's purpose. Like, you're no longer a coal miner because people don't have coal mine jobs. You're also taking away all that economic stimulus. Those tens of thousands of people that would have had a steady paycheck no longer do. A lot of them are living on government assistance and they don't have disposable income. And it just has a cascading effect where it affects all those other industries. Let me go on to the next thing. So if we, I don't know how many of those coal jobs are coming back. I'm hopeful, but we'll see. But ultimately, we need other businesses to either come in or be developed in Appalachia. So what are some of the barriers that might keep businesses from coming into Appalachia? And we'll run into the next segment with this. Bill, what are your thoughts on that?
I would say the roads and the water infrastructure, sewage. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of, it's like the road issues. If we don't address these issues, who would want to come to this area? Because we got to be able to move the product and, be able to have access into these areas from these other counties for the jobs. Yeah. We've had a meeting up there with some CEOs. They wanted some incentives, just like any other company would. Yeah. And when they came, they was looking for certain things that, because we know that the work ethic is there in Eastern Kentucky. Right. We know that because a lot of people on the left side of I-75 are depending on the workers that are driving an hour and a half to 2.5 hours one way for a good paying job. So these companies knows that. And so when they came in, they was looking for certain things, and it was roads and the water and sewage infrastructure.
Right. I mean, the bottom line is, are you going to bring a business in somewhere where you can't transport your products out? You can't get your resources in to make those products, and you don't have steady water? No. All right, we'll pick up the conversation right after the break. Thank you for joining on Kentucky's Voice.
back to Kentucky's Voice Radio online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back. I'm Dr. Lance Pearson with the Kentucky Liberty Caucus here on Kentucky's Voice, 970 AM. I'm joined by State Representative Bill Wesley, as well as my good friend John Ross Mockers Cox. We're talking about issues affecting economic development in Eastern Kentucky. At the very end of the last segment, we talked a lot about infrastructure. If we don't have the infrastructure in place, how are we going to get businesses to move in? And so I just want to talk about two specific examples. The people of Eastern Kentucky have been promised the Mountain Parkway, basically turning a connection from the east into the Pikeville area into a 4-lane highway for a decade. In theory, some of that is finally getting completed in the next year or so. And then there's been a federal plan to possibly make an I-66 that runs all the way from Western Kentucky all the way through to Eastern Kentucky into Pikeville, connecting a lot of the existing roads and bridging those connections. That's been proposed for well over 20 years. And time after time, you just get excuses for why they're not happening. And so that's basically what I can understand, all the frustration that Eastern people in Eastern Kentucky have and trying to bring businesses in. I know one proposal for how we can boost economic activity in Eastern Kentucky is to have people that we now have a lot of remote jobs where people can live anywhere and they can do a job. Let's say in Silicon Valley, they could be living in Pikeville. There's nothing preventing that. You can work over the internet. But it turns out there are some things that are preventing that because we still don't have good infrastructure. So, Bill, what are your thoughts on that? The possibility of people coming in and enjoying the natural resources, and it's a great place to live in Eastern Kentucky, but maybe working remotely. What are some of the barriers there?
We have some programs starting. It's like the Appalachia Mountain Trail Riding.
Yeah.
We are working with local officials trying to get counties joining to other counties. That way it would draw in extra people into the tourism part.
Yep.
It'll give opportunities for local residents to open up campgrounds on their land.
Yep.
People want that kind of outdoor visit from the city, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We're trying to cut off, say, from northern, Ohio, coming in through Kentucky, taking I-75 south to go to Tennessee, with all their buggies and their side by sides. We can do something. We got a lot to offer here in Eastern Kentucky. We got a lot of good hunting, fishing, a lot of outdoor activities.
Right.
And I believe in the Red River Gorge. Dr. Pearson, we got the number one cliff hanging and climbing in the nation. And so people from all around the nation and even parts of the world will come in to the Red River Gorge. We got beautiful trout fishing down there. I mean, it's amazing. And so I believe if we could focus on a lot of the tourism, that would help Eastern Kentucky in a huge way.
Absolutely. You bring in those tourism dollars, that's very important. And if you want people to move to your area, no one is going to move to an area unless they've been there before. You don't just blind, I'm going to move to Pikeville without ever seeing the place. So the first step to get people to move there and maybe work there, start a business there, is to get people to actually visit it. And it has so much to offer. I agree with you. I think there's at least the possibility that we could get Red River Gorge designated as a national park. And if that happens, you're talking like 1 million or 2 million people a year extra that will be coming to that area. Those dollars are coming into the area, and then all of the other natural beauty that's all over the Daniel Boone National Forest, all over Appalachia, really. You can connect those people to the natural beauty that we have and show what a desirable place it is. Some other things related to tourism is Kentucky has produced a ton of musical talent. I mean, just think of these names: Chris Stapleton, Tyler Childers, Keith Whitley, Patty Loveless, Sturgill Simpson, the late, great Loretta Lynn. I mean, just like country music superstars, arguably Kentucky and the Appalachian region has produced more of those than anything. And we do have a few festivals where we have a music festival here or there, but I know we give incentive programs to Louder Than what's the Bourbon and Beyond and Louder Than Life. I think here in Louisville we have these huge music festivals. Why can't we do something like that to draw people into Appalachia? Get some of these great artists to put on a performance there.
Well, I'm gonna interject just for a second.
Yeah,
I think
ahead.
that one thing it's like, Bill, this is something I want you to hear as well. The old adage that you don't know what you got until it's gone.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people from those areas, I'll talk about Bell County specifically, don't really understand how beautiful it is.
Yeah.
When you're there all the time, it's just what you do. You know, when you ride four-wheelers, it's just what you do. When you fish, it's just what you do. Being someone who was there for 25 years and then moved away, and now I'm living in the concrete jungle.
Yeah.
I've actually went back and, thank goodness for my wife on finding these things. But I go back to Bell County and Cumberland Gap. I don't think it's a national park, isn't like a national forest or something. But going back to Cumberland Gap and hiking those trails and going to Hensley Settlement and going to Pine Mountain State Resort Park, like it is just there's so much there. And I think that even our legislators maybe don't realize what it has to offer because we've been told our entire lives that we don't have anything to offer. Right. So it's hard to not internalize that. If you're a 50-year-old man and you've been told that Eastern Kentucky isn't good enough for 50 years, you kind of, even if you don't think you believe it, you probably got a little bit of that in you. And I think we do need to realize how beautiful it is. I think the Red River Gorge, if no one has been to Mammoth Cave to really see, I didn't know, I'd never been there before being from Eastern Kentucky. Seeing what that national park designation does, it's the real deal. I mean, I would say that Red River Gorge and even other places in Eastern Kentucky, it's just as beautiful as Mammoth Cave. It has just as much to offer, but because it doesn't have that national designation and it's not all over the federal pamphlets,
that's right.
You don't get the draw. So I just think that's important to remember.
Right. I think that's a great idea. So one of those things, if you do bring people in, you bring tourism, people decide that maybe they would like to live there. If they want to work remotely, one of the things that they need to have is consistent internet service. And I know with the Kentucky Wired program, that's been a barrier. So can you talk a little bit about that? And if you're not able, the bottom line here is, if you're not able to consistently get on the internet and have high speed internet, how are you going to work an internet job? So can you talk about some of those barriers in terms of why urban professionals might not see Eastern Kentucky as an opportunity to live and work?
Yes, sir. We have been neglected in getting that. We have the funds, but
that's right.
A lot of the terrain is an issue for us. Getting some companies coming in here, putting in the infrastructure part of that. We all know that a business will be hindered if we don't have the internet, especially fast-paced. Internet, we're not going to be able to see that.
Right.
Now we have ran into some problems in certain remote areas that, just trying to get through the rock and the mountain area, trying to get that in. And, but I believe we're going to get there.
Yeah.
We just got to pound it away. I believe that's one of the problems that we have with some of our road issues. If you take Northern Kentucky versus Eastern Kentucky, we got so much terrain that we got to bust through on the say the mountainside. Removing of the rock and debris like that. You can see a big difference. And so the cost of putting in a road is a lot more.
Absolutely.
Putting transportation. And so I believe that we are going to work through them issues. I believe it's going to be addressed more this year. We see people has, had more attention in the legislation part on some of us that we're going to be a voice. As a senator, I believe that I will be the next senator for District 30.
Yeah.
I will be a strong advocate for Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah, and we all believe that. Now, and one of the final issues that we want to talk about is, when you're trying to boost your economy, it takes money to make money. We've always heard that statement. And one thing that Eastern Kentucky is definitely lacking is a lack of venture capital. And even our government systems and schools, there isn't a tax base to support a lot of programs there. And so if you don't have, if your local government doesn't have the money in order to build out things that are attractive to bring in businesses, they're not going to move there. So can you talk through some of those issues? And we've talked through some of these ideas for how we can increase the tax base for some of these Eastern Kentucky counties. I know one was maybe giving tax credits for these bourbon warehouses to move into Eastern Kentucky. They can distill it even in, a lot of the bourbon industry is around Bardstown or Lawrenceburg. They're along I-64, but I-64 runs all the way out through Eastern Kentucky. There's no reason we couldn't have some bourbon warehouses if we give some incentives for those tax credits that these bourbon distillers have to build in Eastern Kentucky, and also the possibility of maybe data centers. Do you have any thoughts on those sorts of things to kind of boost the tax revenue for these counties?
I believe that is a very good point. I believe that we have, availability for things like that.
Yeah.
And I believe that after we start bringing in some, good water infrastructure programs over here and paying more attention to that, investing more into the roads, I believe that we can offer more on the incentivized side to bring in more companies. We got the workforce. We have that. And I believe that a company, if we can show them some things that what we have here to offer in Eastern Kentucky, I believe that we got a good shot of bringing some good companies in, bring some good jobs.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Thank you, Bill. Again, you are planning on running for State Senate District 30. That covers about 8 or 9 counties, from Powell and Estill all the way over to Perry. And so consider him on your ballot if you live in Eastern Kentucky and you're seeing this on maybe a podcast. This next segment, we're going to let Bill go, but John and I are going to continue a conversation about crime and corruption and how those have influenced Eastern Kentucky. So we welcome you back. Join us right after the break. Thank you.
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your special host, Dr. Lance Pearson with the Kentucky Liberty Caucus, here with my very good friend, John Ross Marcus Cox. We're talking through issues affecting Appalachia, a topic that we rarely encounter here in the big city. And I guess people from Chicago would regard it as silly for me calling Louisville a big city, but relative to Kentucky, it certainly is. Okay, this last section, we're going to talk about the role that crime and corruption has played in Appalachia. We've talked a lot about some of these things that people in Appalachia haven't been able to control. Some of this stuff, however, it's people that live in Appalachia aren't incapable of dealing with some of these problems. Some of these problems are actually the result of corruption and powerful people in Appalachia attacking their own people. So I want to give a disclaimer for this next section that we're talking about crime and corruption. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. We know that. In a civil lawsuit, both parties have a right to present their side of the case. So even if we aren't able to give both sides here, consider that. And everything talked about here is based on public reporting or retelling of accounts or allegations from people that were involved. But most of this is awaiting proof in court. So do your own research and let the courts sort things out before we make a final judgment on this. Okay, we were hoping to have Nicole Hidalgo on for this segment. She had a family medical emergency this morning and wasn't able to join us. But if you are interested in any of these topics, she does a fantastic job of going through them. Her account on X, which used to be Twitter, is called Smokahontas. There's no E in that, so SMOKAHONTAS, so like Pocahontas, but Smokahontas. 2024, so Smokahontas 2024 on X. I recommend you follow it. We're going to scratch the surface of some of these, and she actually has content that she's been tracking for multiple years about all of these scandals that have happened. Okay. Let me get into this. In every county in the country, even the poorest of those counties, for example, Owsley County actually has the highest rate of government assistance of any county in the entire country. That's in Eastern Kentucky. But in every county, there's a group of powerful people. They're often pretty well off, and they're the people that actually make the real decisions. They run things. Seemingly more times than not, some of those powerful people will take advantage of the weaker members of the society. They'll flout the law, and they usually have some twisted ends that's going to benefit them that they're taking care of. This happens everywhere, and Appalachia is no different. Just this week, there were two incredible stories. To me, they were incredible. In the Lexington Herald-Leader. The first was about Mayor Randall Weddle of London, Kentucky. Previously, he was caught having members of his family and or his company, he has a large company as well as being mayor, using company credit cards in order to make tens of thousands of dollars in donations to Governor Andy Beshear. He was subsequently impeached and thrown out of office by the London City Council. However, just this week, I think yesterday, a circuit court clerk determined that they didn't have enough reason to kick him out of office. So now this person that has had some very questionable behavior is coming back to be the mayor of London, Kentucky. Another story is about State Senator Brandon Smith. Yesterday, or maybe it was 2 days ago, the Lexington Herald-Leader with Austin Horn on the byline published an article talking about how State Senator Brandon Smith got legislation passed over the last 5 years that provided these sweetheart tax incentives, and they prevented zoning restrictions on cryptocurrency mining. It turns out that about a year or two after that legislation got pushed through, and most of it went through his committee. He's the chair of a committee in the state Senate. He invested $2.5 million into a crypto mining operation. That operation is now facing two lawsuits, one from the person that sold him the warehouse for $2.5 million, which was at a discount. In order, that person was supposed to get some percentage of that business. and then also from the Chinese company that he was working with to buy cryptocurrency mining operations. And so not only is there that element of basically self-dealing, you're passing laws and then taking advantage of those laws that you just passed. There's also the issue that cryptocurrency mining is extremely resource intensive, both water and electricity. And we won't get into it in this segment. It was really for the last segment, but the electricity cost of Appalachia, which used to be extremely cheap because of all the coal plants and all the coal that was in the area, the cost of electricity in Eastern Kentucky is skyrocketed. For some people, they're paying an extra $300 or $400, $500 a month just because of the lack of electricity easily available, and then all of these companies like cryptocurrency mining that are using that electricity. Okay, those two things pale in comparison to this next story, which is just insane, coming out of Letcher County. Letcher County is a very small county. I think it's got no more than 6,000 people. I forgot to actually look up the exact population. But Nicole Hidalgo, again, Smokahontas 2024 on X, has been documenting this for years. The culmination you likely have heard. We have a clip. Can we get the producer to put the video clip on?
Bartley claims the former sheriff tried to contact his wife and daughter multiple times that day because he genuinely feared their lives were in danger. Bartley stated this was because of alleged threats being made toward Steins due to what he knew about events that had happened within the courthouse. He explained the main concern centers around a civil lawsuit filed by Sabrina Adkins, who was sexually assaulted by former sheriff's deputy Ben Fields. Steins was named in the lawsuit as a defendant for failing to adequately supervise Fields. He also noted that Steins and Mullins were not good friends, saying, quote, "I think that their relationship was centered pretty much solely on their profession." We reached out to Bartley and prosecuting attorney Jackie Steele ourselves, but did not hear back.
Okay. At the very end of that clip, you saw it basically went into like grainy blocks. That was the county sheriff, whose name is Sean Mickey Steins, the man that was in the gray shirt. He shot the sitting district court judge, a man by the name of Kevin Mullins, dead. Shot him multiple times at point blank range in the judge's chambers. He basically walked over, made sure the door was locked, pulled out his gun, and just in cold blood executed the sitting district court judge. Now, that in itself is shocking. I can't recall the last time we had something happen like that nationally, but especially in Kentucky. But that's only the tip of the iceberg. Some of the backstory. The thing that apparently sparked this altercation was there was a civil suit filed by a woman named Sabrina Adkins. She filed that suit against the deputy sheriff, a person that was under Mickey Steins, by the name of Ben Fields. That civil suit that she filed also included the sheriff himself, Mickey Steins, for a lack of training and oversight of his deputies and for failing to respond appropriately to the allegations that were made. And what were those allegations? Basically, she alleged that Ben Fields, the deputy sheriff, extorted both her and multiple other inmates in the county jail into having sex with them in order to get favorable treatment while they were on house arrest. So the judge would put various people on house arrest. Often you have to wear an ankle monitor, and basically the deputies would allow them to take the ankle monitors off or not be on house arrest as long if they would have sex with the deputies. The suit alleges that some of that abuse actually occurred in the restroom of the chamber of the district court judge himself. So not necessarily, so there are some allegations that he was directly involved, but it certainly took place in his own restroom in his chambers. Fields was convicted basically for doing this in 2024. He was convicted of rape and sodomy of an inmate. Steins then alleged in the suit. There was alleged in the suit that Steins did not appropriately monitor his deputies, obviously, but then when the allegations were made that he actually was involved in trying to silence some of those witnesses. Steins had actually given a deposition in that case 3 days before the shooting occurred. In the months following this murder of this sitting district court judge, a woman came out who was a jailer that basically said that this is exactly what was happening, and that Mullins, the judge, was known to be one of the local officials that basically treated the women's lockup as something like a brothel. All right. So there's a lot of moving parts there. These are the key players. District Court Judge Kevin Mullins was executed he was unarmed, and he was executed by the local sheriff, Mickey Steins. The deputy sheriff seems to be the biggest villain in this story. And again, these are just allegations. No one has been proven guilty except for Ben Fields himself for rape and sodomy. He spent 6 months in jail for that. Sarah Davis, who worked in the jail, came forward and corroborated some of these sex exploitation claims. It turns out, oddly enough, that Ben Fields' wife actually worked in that jail, and after all of this craziness, got promoted, and she now works with juveniles in the juvenile court. So insane. You want to add another element of insanity to this story. When the women were released out of those jails, they would go to a halfway house, to someone that was a rehab liaison. That person was actually a preacher by the name of Michael Clark. It came out that he actually had sent lewd videos of himself pleasuring himself to the various female inmates that were part of the halfway house in the rehab program. So.
And Lance, what's awful about these stories is it takes they obviously deserve to get attention, and these victims deserve to get to see their people doing this to them to find justice, right? Yep. But what it does is it also reinforces stereotypes of the area, which I hate, because it's a beautiful area and I love everything about. And that's one thing I don't want the focus there to be on changing the culture there, because I love the small town feel of it. But it takes the eye off the ball of what's going to affect everyone. We go back to the Brandon Smith thing there with the sweetheart tax incentives and the preventing zoning restrictions and the cryptocurrency mining. It's similar to what was happening in Oldham County when those utility rates are going to affect everybody in the area, right? Data so it takes the eye off the ball there. So that's really one of the unfortunate side effects of it, is that that's what gets the attention as opposed to those stories.
All right, that's about all for our time. Find us on YouTube or on Facebook, Kentucky's Voice.